Hello everyone and welcome to the New York Empoleons Week 1 battle of the PBAL Season 5. We are here taking on the owner of the league, the founder of the league, the commissioner of the league, and my rival, Aaron 12. The reason he's my rival is because he is coach of the Rome Empoleons, which is clearly the inferior Empoleon team. So the New York Empoleon are going to win this battle, and here's how we're going to do it. We are going to take on a team of Lycanroc, Midday, Mimikyu, Silvally, Rotom Heat, Vanillix, Claydol, Gmax, Grimmsnarl, Lurantis, Dragalge, Gastrodon, and Melmetal. Ugh, why do I have to face Melmetal Week 1? I have legitimately no answer to Melmetal on my entire roster. That thing can 2KO my entire team, and it sucks. Now, was not drafting Melmetal, which I talked about in my draft analysis because I had the first pick, was not drafting Melmetal a better idea? And then also not drafting an answer to it? A very good idea? Unclear. We will handle it the way we have to handle everything, which is a little bit of just kind of figure it out and then go from there. But now, one thing you'll also note throughout this season, both here and the PCL, I don't think I talk about it in that team builder specifically, I actually have started organizing my team building docs by speed tier, not by the tier the Mon is in. So just a heads up, Mons will be in a weird order. Definitely not the drafted order, just the order that fastest to slowest, which just helps me take a look visually at the team, and then that's how I say it out loud. Organized over there. So definitely an interesting team. Klefki, I really want to do work, but it's not really going to get a chance to this week. Grimmsnarl is just so annoying. Him having screens, him having Melmetal, like these are things that I just don't really have great answers to. However, I have come up with a team. This is a support Mamoswine by no small measure. It is going to be rocking out with the Lumberry just to try to take a Will-O-Wisp from a Rotom or something. You can take an Overheat as well. And it's going to have Rock Tomb because I want to outspeed the Rotom Heat if it switches in. I would have run Smackdown if I learned it, but apparently this doesn't learn Smackdown. As Rotom Heat is his only answer to ground-type attacks, or at least immune to ground-type attacks, and is probably switching to Mamoswine. Rock Tomb is a pretty safe click, and if I had Smackdown, I definitely would have gone for it. Then I can just spam EQ, and it would have been super nice. Knockoff is also good utility, and then Ice Shard is there. If this thing is around in the endgame, I can potentially pick some things off, but most often, this thing is going to Rock Tomb, try to slow the Rotom Heat down, and depending on its set, like kind of get a sense of what its set is, if it's bulky, if it's offensive. It's not a 2-hit KO. Stone Edge would have been required in order to 2-hit KO the Rotom, and I just wasn't willing to play around with that. So Rock Tomb, get the speed drop on the Rotom or on something else, you know, if he does switch in, like the Mimikyu, the Silvally, something that can take a hit or something, or the Claydol. I guess Claydol also resists or is immune to ground type attacks, but then again, this thing has so much coverage for Claydol that Rotom Heat's just a way better switch in. And then Knockoff, potentially if I want to click that instead of the Rock Tomb once or twice to try to maybe get rid of Boots or something on the Rotom. Not that it matters, I don't have any hazards, but Mamoswine is really a support Mon this week, really just kind of going to be able to early game, put some pressure on, maybe force some switches and get some chip, and the ideal Mamoswine situation is that he breaks the sash, not the sash, but the disguise on the Mimikyu. That's really the important thing. Maybe chip the Rotom Heat if possible, but that is less of its priority, more just a factor of the fact that Rotom Heat is baited in a lot by this Mon. Next up, we have my Rapidash, which is the second fastest thing. It's behind the Lycanroc, his Lycanroc speed tier. It's the second fastest thing I have this week. I'm not bringing the Cinccino, which would be the fastest thing on the field, but it just, Melmetal literally just stuffs it. It does not do damage to Melmetal, so it wasn't worth it. I'm running both Toxic and Will-O-Wisp, as well as Morning Sun on a Shukaberry set. That can take one Earthquake from a Melmetal. Try to get that Will-O-Wisp off. If I can get the Will-O-Wisp off, I just click Flare Blitz until I die, is basically how this goes. Again, this is really to facilitate. Maybe if the Rotom Heat comes in, if I can bait that in, get a Toxic off on the Rotom, get a Toxic off or Willow on the Mimikyu or the Lycanroc, maybe on the Grimmsnarl, like something. Just get a couple status moves. This thing's going to die more often than not without getting a kill, and that's totally fine. It's sort of where I'm expecting it to be. Gastrodon is something that gets baited in as well. Toxic would be super nice. Obviously, if it gets Willowed, it gets Willowed. It at least negates the leftovers. Next up is the Klefki. Klefki is really, again, to support my three. I keep saying everything's to support a win con. I'll get there. I'll get to that win con. But Klefki is there to, once again, support the three Mons after it in the roster, all of which are win cons in and of themselves and can combine to do so much damage once things are whittled a little bit. Just chipped a little bit. And again, Broken Disguise on Mimikyu is huge. So dual screens, prankster screens is amazing. Foul play, I was considering running something like Steel Beam to try to let this thing sack itself, but it just lets too much happen. The Melmetal setting up too freely, so foul play just felt more safe in that regard. Dual screens just super nice against his roster. Doesn't really have an answer to dual screens outside of like Brick Break on Melmetal itself or something like that, which is definitely a fear of mine that he could run. But if I can get those screens up, get them to stick, let this thing go down, then we're going to start talking about how I will actually win the game once all of this stuff is set up. So again, the Mamoswine, the Rapidash are there to set up status and chip things and maybe break disguise, and then the Klefki comes in, sets up screens, dies. And then we've got Mew. Mew is the first possible win con. It is Iron Defense, Body Press, Stored Power, and Roost. Again, if Mimikyu's Disguise is broken, +6 Stored Power is doing a decent amount of damage to that. Maybe not OHKOing it, but Mimikyu's not going to OHKO me back since it's a physical attacker. Dragalge is the one thing that I could potentially fear if it's at full health. It will live a 6 boosts Stored Power. Not 2. It usually won't take 2, but it'll take 1. It'll do about 60%. So definitely something I have to worry about, that it can just spam a Draco and maybe kill me on the return. But if I have a light screen up or something, then it can't immediately threaten me or KO me. And then I can do a lot of damage to that. Break that thing down. Body Press hits so much of his team. At +6, we're looking at, you know, the only thing that can switch into this set super safely and not have to worry about it is the Claydol. And at +6, I think Body Press can be a 2 KO, especially if I have any chip damage from the early game when Claydol is doing a couple different things, I assume. So, Mew, definitely a mon that has potential to be very, very useful this game. I don't know if it's going to be a final sweeper, but it's definitely a win con of mine in a situation. It takes the double Iron Bash from Melmetal better than anything else on my roster, especially if I can start setting up Iron Defenses and then roosting. Melmetal cannot break me, and I can just set up in front of it and then go for a Body Press and potentially take that thing out straight away, which would be amazing. If I can get the chance to set up with this is the actual, like, premier win con. Sub Belly Drum, Slackberry, Como-O. It's just so good. The Iron Head is there. Again, if I can break the disguise on Mimikyu. If I can't break the disguise on Mimikyu, this thing may struggle to set up and actually get a chance to sweep. But if I can break the disguise on Mimikyu, set up a sub in front of something like a worn down Melmetal that he wants to preserve, or maybe a Rotom Heat that's going to go for a Willow or something, and then be able to go for a Belly Drum, get down to 25%, be at +6, get +1 speed, outspeed everything on his roster. Close Combat was better, in my opinion, than the Drain Punch, since Drain Punch doesn't guaranteed kill the Melmetal or the Gastrodon at +6, where Close Combat does, so I definitely wanted to just have that little bit of extra offensive pressure. He does have a good amount of priority, so that is something I have to fear, but the priority he has is Accel Rock, which doesn't kill from 25%, and Shadow Sneak, which doesn't kill from 25%. So I've definitely got options to survive the priority. If he has a bunch of it and just keeps on pounding me with it, and I don't have the sub anymore, then that's annoying. But if I can get that sub Belly Drum off, this thing can easily win, and especially if there's screens up, he's going to have a lot of trouble breaking through this thing, even at the minus defenses. And then lastly is my other win con mon. It is Gengar this week. It is G-Max Gengar, of course, rocking out with the Nasty Plot, Sludge Bomb, Shadow Ball, and Giga Drain. I decided to go with Giga Drain over the Energy Ball just so that I can get some maybe nice recovery. This thing pressures Claydol so hard is one of the reasons I don't even know if he'll bring Claydol, for being honest. And if he does, it'll be like a specially defensive Claydol set, which is why I think the Mew can do a lot of work. Nasty Plot, if I can get a Nasty Plot off, if I'm behind screens, I can live basically any one hit except for maybe a double Iron Bash from a Melmetal. Go for a Nasty Plot, then I can just go ahead and get large and G-Max, and then click moves. Sludge Bomb is really good because it gives me more special attack. So if I don't get a chance to Nasty Plot, and I can click Sludge Bomb on something like the Rotom Heat, that'd be great too, because then I can get to +1. Giga Drain sets up the grassy terrain. I'm Life Orb, so would definitely give the ability to take the Life Orb damage, regain some health, and not, you know, be dying as quickly. And Shadow Ball, G-Max Terror could just be... I don't actually know if I'm going to use the, like, aspect of it in which it traps. It's harder to utilize when it comes to, like, a G-Max mod, because you can't use any support moves at all. So even if I trap something that's positive for me to trap, I still can't. I just have to attack it, you know. But it's still useful. Still a base 130, so it's really, really good ghost type attack. So, and he just doesn't have that many ghost type switch-ins outside of maybe, you know, Silvally Dark, which would be an interesting bring in my opinion. He has Grimmsnarl, but Grimmsnarl's not taking a Sludge Bomb, so you know, the G-Maxes may come out. I can take a like Sucker Punch or something from the Gmax Grimmsnarl if I'm Gmaxed as well, especially if I have the screens up, and he can't Sucker Punch when we're both Gmaxed, so I get the chance to just go for a Sludge Bomb right away, do a lot of damage. If I've Nasty Plotted, it just drops. So the 3 Mons at the back definitely win cons. Each of them can win the game in their own right. The 3 Mons at the beginning are there to support that particular endeavor, try to get one of them into a position where it can win. I don't know which one will be my eventual win con. All of them have the ability to just sweep his entire team. That being said, more than likely the situation I'll find myself in is using one of them early or in the mid game, and then using another one to finish up the game later. That's kind of the expectation. If I can get screens up, Gengar is really, really solid, and Como-O is really, really solid, depending on which Mons he has remaining and what health they're at. Gengar handles the Mimikyu a little bit worse if it's still got its Disguise up, but it can break it for the Como-O, and then the Como-O can sweep from there. So don't want to sack Klefki right away. I want to be able to maybe set screens up and then come back in with the Klefki later and set screens up again. But Mamoswine and Rapidash are going to hopefully do a bunch of work in the early game. I'm not going to be too stressed if they go down. That's not like their primary role to survive. That being said, Mamoswine does have that Ice Shard just in case, which late game can be huge if I do need that little extra chip damage. So there's a lot of ins and outs of this team. I'm really excited to use it. I think it's actually going to be super fun. And probably, again, I really like the way that I drafted this team. And I think this is the first example of a team where I'm like, look, multiple win conditions that I can use depending on situations, and I can like react to things, and I'm prepped for that. So should be super fun. I hope you guys are excited for this. I'm going to have that battle in like not that long from this minute. So definitely keep an eye out for that battle when it comes out. It should come out tomorrow. I don't have any reason that it wouldn't. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys all back here for that battle against the Rome Empoleons, coached by Aaron12. And if you haven't seen him before, go check his stuff out in the description below. I don't think I said that before. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care, everybody.